Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to talk about bicycling at night. So recently I started doing videos on cubecompmtdx of nighttime bike rides ever since I got my new action camera, which sits right there on my bike handlebar. It's not there right now. I figured I'd take an opportunity to shoot a video talking about some important things to know should you be interested in bike riding at night. So I've been bike riding at night for about 9 years now, or actually closer to 10 years. I started riding regularly on main roads back in 2010 at night. So I've done several thousand miles of nighttime bike riding. Really, to be honest, most of my bike riding is done at night. The reason why I ride at night is this particular area that I live in. It's north of Charlotte, North Carolina. The traffic in this area is terrible during the day, especially between the 8 to 5 window. There are some times a day where traffic isn't all that bad, but at night, usually the time I ride is between 7:30 to 11 p.m. at night. Traffic is usually very calm during these hours, especially on Sunday nights like tonight. Traffic was not bad at all. I actually just got back from a bike ride not too long ago. So here's the bike. It's my GMC Nolly Road bike, 2010 model. Has some various upgrades done to it, but the thing I want to talk about tonight is the equipment I have on it for nighttime bike riding. So you can see right here I have a nice bright LED Cree LED flashlight for my headlight. These are required by law in North Carolina, or at least a good headlight is required by law. Also, in addition, you need a good working tail lamp. Now there are some specifics in the law itself, and I have that stuff noted in my disclaimer that I have on my nighttime bike ride videos. I forget exactly how many 100 feet you must be visible from, but of course, in addition to this, I also wear this construction vest. This is actually from the railroad. My late uncle gave me these, and I wear these when I go riding at night. The key thing is you need to make sure you are seen. So you see that my shirt is dark, but of course I wear the vest. My pants or my shorts rather are white. Do not go out and do any nighttime bike riding or jogging in dark clothes, because it's hard for motorists to see you when you are not in bright clothing. I recommend having clothing that has the reflective stripes on. Now these are kind of worn because this is an older shirt, but it's the bright yellow. I forget exactly what yellow this is called, but you'll see some road signs are actually colored this same exact color. But so the key thing is you will make sure that you are seen. Make sure your bike is seen. So you see this bike. It does not have wheel reflectors like it did when it had the stock wheels, but it does have the stock pedals, which have reflectors in them. We have this tail lamp, which does a great job of getting people's attention, and of course this super bright headlamp. To give you an idea, let's look at my messy kitchen that I need to clean up. You see it lights up stuff pretty well, and this is actually after about 2.5 hours of bike riding since I put the fresh battery in this thing. And I run Panasonic NCR 18650B 3400 mAh batteries in this light. Now, I have one in the light and I have one in my bag here. So there's that, and also in addition to the lights, I recommend having mirrors on your bike or on your helmet. Some cyclists actually have them mounted to their helmet. These are Z-Fowl side view mirrors. I actually have 2 of them. They used to sell these at Walmart back several years ago. These are rather old, and you can see they're not looking the best, but they serve their purpose quite well at night, because the thing you're looking for is oncoming motorists. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Yeah, mirrors are definitely something I recommend. That way you can see what's coming behind you. Also, I recommend having a bag like this that has your phone, an extra battery for your flashlight and tail light if necessary. This one here runs on 2 AAAs and it runs for daggone forever for it needs batteries, so I don't even carry spares for it, but I do carry one spare for the headlamp. So inside here, I'll open this up. This is also something you can buy at Walmart, or at least you could. I'm not sure if they still sell these or not. Very handy little bag. Mounts right on top of your top tube. And matter of fact, I should mention that the smartphone's touchscreen also works through this. So if you want to use Strava or one of them apps or whatever, or if you just want to check the weather or something like that, you can without even having to take the phone out of the bag. So inside here I have the battery. I have some extra change. I have this USB cable which goes to a power bank, which I do not have in here right now. Yeah, I have change, and I also have a spare ID down there. This is actually my older copy of my driver's license. I had to get a new I had to renew my driver's license about what was it, 2 years ago or something like that. But I just keep an old copy that has my current address and stuff like that on hand. Now, of course, it's important to have this for, let's say, if you do get hurt or something like that, people can identify you. Law enforcement can identify you, like if they pull you over for whatever reason. Now, you don't have to have your current driver's license on you because, of course, you're operating a bicycle, not a motor vehicle. So you don't have to have you don't have to carry a driver's license to operate a bicycle. But I carry my old copy for ID purposes. I was pulled over about 7 years ago for it was a real stupid reason. I didn't do anything wrong, but it was the police officer had suspicion of me riding in an area that had a series of break-ins, and mind you, this area that I live in is very safe. There's hardly any crime that goes on here, minus some car break-ins and stuff like that once in a while. It's usually not too bad here, and that's another thing if I hadn't mentioned. I'll have to cover that. But so yeah, and here I have the stuff I had mentioned. Also out back I have another bag. This one has a spare inner tube, a CO2 inflator, and a tire lever. So that way, if I do have a flat, if I do end up getting a flat tire, I can fix my tire on the side of the road. Because there have been times in the past where I've had flats. Matter of fact, one time I had double flats. Had to call a relative to come get me. Luckily, it was only a few minutes up the road. But sometimes I ride 15-20 miles away from this area. Sometimes our rides are over 30 miles in total. And there's times where I'll ride quite a bit of ways from my location here. And it's nice to be able to just fix my bike and come home. And obviously, make sure your bike is in good working order. This is pretty much not just at night, but anytime you go for a road ride or something like that, you don't want to get stranded. And of course, I do my own bike maintenance. This bike here runs fantastic. Yeah, runs fantastic. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, again, make sure the bike is in good working order. Your brakes, make sure your brakes are functioning properly. Make sure your shifters, everything are working properly. Your tires have proper pressure, stuff like that. And again, as mentioned with the spare tube and stuff like that, just from my observations, in my opinion, you're more likely to get a flat tire at night than you are during the day, because it's harder to see objects like nails or stuff on the road at night that you'd otherwise see during the day. So earlier I mentioned about the area that you ride in. At least here I mentioned that this is a relatively safe area. you don't want to be bike riding it at night in places that are not really safe. If the area that you're in has a higher amount of criminal activity, especially at night, it may not be the best choice to ride at night. So, if I didn't mention already, the two reasons why I ride at night are this. Number one, the traffic in this area is terrible during the day. Now, there's a certain period of time, at times during the day, where traffic isn't all that bad. But in some areas of where I live, it's north of Charlotte, northern Mecklenburg County. This area, no matter what time of day it is during the day, if it's between 8 to 5, between 5 to 7, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., there are areas here that the roads are just jam full of traffic. Sometimes stop and go traffic, and let's face it, it's not fun to be bike riding on the roads when you have lots of cars. It's not a pleasant experience for the cyclists, and not exactly a great experience for motorists either when they have to try to get around you. So, with everything I've set up here, of course, I've been doing this for years. Motorists tend to, I'll be honest, drivers tend to follow the share the road principle a lot better at night. Drivers usually give me a lot more space when passing me. Well, for starters, there's not much traffic at night, so motorists usually do not have to slow down to get around me unless it's in a curve or something like that, or there is an oncoming car. But usually motorists can get right around me just fine. So yeah, so with the mirrors, as I mentioned earlier, when I'm out on the roads riding at night, I use my mirrors to see when there's oncoming cars, and also at night you can hear stuff a lot better. But again, I rely on mirrors as well to see when there's oncoming cars, because that way I can still focus on looking ahead, but occasionally glance down to watch an oncoming motorist. With especially the left mirror, I can see how far the driver is moving over to go around me, because you never know. Somebody might be on their phones not paying attention, and that's why I always pay close attention to my mirrors when cars are coming up on me. And that way, if somebody is not moving over to the minimum 4 feet specified by North Carolina law, I can shift over to the far right shoulder if necessary, or off into the grass if I have to. Another thing I want to talk about is traffic signals. Now, of course, I see cyclists during the day blow through red lights and stop signs like they're above the law, but really, to be honest, bicycles are considered vehicles under law, and they must obey traffic laws. They must stop for red lights, must stop for stop signs, you name it. So when you're out riding at night, chances are you're going to pull up to a traffic signal, to a red light on a side approach, and there's not going to be another car sitting on the other side or behind you to trigger the signal. Now, at least the traffic signals in this area, most of them are demand actuated, and they use inductive loop sensors in the roadway. There's a few video detection lights around here, but most of the traffic signals use inductive loop sensors in the road that detect metal on your vehicle or your bicycle or whatever. And there's a misconception. Some people think these things do not detect bicycles. Now, in some towns and some states, I'd imagine you'll find some DOTs that do not properly adjust these signals, or at least adjust the sensors in the road to properly detect bicycles. Some municipalities and some DOTs do not use the most optimal sensor design. Now, in North Carolina, at least most of the traffic signals in the area that I ride are maintained by NCDOT or by some of the towns, but they pretty much, I think, rely on NCDOT for their maintenance. Most of these traffic signals use the quadrupole style sensor. I'll have to I'll have to do a separate video on traffic signals again, because it's been about 7 years since I've covered traffic signals. But traffic signals, at least the ones around here, about 80 to 90% of them will detect my bicycle in instances where I pull up to a side approach, or if I pull up to a left turn signal and I need a green light. Usually I will get a green light. There are some intersections around here that do not, and I'm going to have to contact the DOT to just let them know that, hey, these things are out of adjustment. And the guys over at NCDOT's traffic signal division, they are generally good about correcting this kind of stuff. So it's important to know how to trigger traffic signals. I think I'm going to do a separate video on that here pretty soon. There's a traffic signal right in this area that I would think would be a perfect candidate for a video. So there's that. And I think now it's time to go and venture outside and talk about this some more. Before we go outside, I'm going to take a moment to show you how I look with the vest on. As you see, good bright color, and you can see how I look from the rear. So yeah, it's important that you're clothed in bright clothing, especially the vest. I recommend wearing these anytime you're cycling on the road. That way you can be seen much easier by motorists. Okay, so now we're outside, and of course you just see it's night. There's the bike. As you see, it's very well visible. So I have my Jeep's headlights on, and I'm going to mount on the bike and show you the example of what a oncoming motorist would look like. I'm going to try to do the best I can here. The camera I'm using is rather bulky. I may not actually mount onto the bike, but I'll give you an example here. So, if you look down here, as you can see, I can clearly see the headlights of the car coming behind me, and I can tell if they are directly behind me. I can tell if they are to the left of me, etc. So it's an example of the importance of having these mirrors, because when you're looking forward like this, it's not always easy to turn around and look back at the car behind you to see what they're doing. So again, as I mentioned, it's very important that you have mirrors. And one thing you'll notice right away is it's very easy to spot an oncoming car at night, because of course it's just headlights and darkness. So I can set this down. Yeah, this bike has a kickstand. Most road bikes do not. A lot of people like to give this bike a lot of flack about it having a kickstand, but there are times to where that kickstand comes in handy. I'm going to move it back to some more solid ground here. Matter of fact, I'm going to move it up closer to this as an example of a motorist that's following closely. So you can easily tell now that how close the motorist is following me by how close the lights are. If I move further away, like for example this right here, that's another thing I meant to mention is you can also tell how far away the car is. So again, mirrors, they're important to have, especially if you're riding at night. And as you can see, this, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the yellow colors of the bike itself make it very visible at night. Okay, now we're back inside. And to wrap this up, we'll mention again how important it is that you are able to be seen. So I think I mentioned about that time I was pulled over by an officer for it was a ridiculous bunch of crap is what it was, because I didn't do anything wrong. I was not breaking any laws. The officer did comment on how well he was able to see me from far away. At least I forget how far away it was from me, but it was a long straight roadway in downtown, and he was able to see me for quite a ways. So it's important that you're able to be seen. And as mentioned, drivers at night tend to be very courteous. You're always going to have the select few though who like to floor it when passing you and stuff like that. But at least from my experience around in this area, the drivers here are more courteous at night than they are during the day. It seems like they give you a lot more space. Again, it's a lot easier to get more space when there's hardly any traffic. Matter of fact, a lot of motorists, when they go around me, they completely leave. They completely cross over to the next lane to go around me. So yeah, as mentioned, important to be able to be seen. Now, before I wrap this up, I want to talk about a couple more things. I think I mentioned crime earlier. If the area you're in is not the most safest area, you may want to not be riding at night in those areas. Also, when you stop for rest breaks, always choose an area that you're familiar with. And if you're riding in a new area that you aren't exactly familiar with, try to choose areas that are well lit by at least a street light or something. That way you are visible. So yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. You don't, unless it's an area that you are certain is safe, you don't want to stop and rest in completely dark areas. Now, there are some areas where I have no choice because there's not much of any lighting in some of the areas I ride in. For example, the road I went on tonight was in an unincorporated area of Huntersville, and there was no businesses, nothing like that. The only lighting was security lights provided by the electricity customers on that road. So in some cases you are not going to have areas that are very well lit, but you just got to be careful with that. And also, I try to avoid riding on Friday nights and Saturday nights because on those nights you tend to have more drunk drivers on the road. Now it can happen any night of the week, and I have had a couple of encounters in the past with drunk drivers. In these cases, the drivers did slow. They did notice me, but there was one instance years ago, I'll never forget it. The guy could not maintain his lane. I eventually just pulled off the road onto a side street and let him go. But again, mirrors. That way you can observe the motorists behind you. That way you can see through the motorists behind you from a good ways. And when there is a motorist behind you, you can tell how close they're following behind you. And when they go to pass you, you can tell how far they're going over. That way you can watch what they're doing. That's, again, probably the biggest thing you want to keep in mind anytime you're on the roads riding is when there's a car coming. What are they doing? Do they see you? Stuff like that. So I generally avoid riding on Friday nights and Saturday nights because of the fact that they tend to be more drunk drivers out on those 2 nights of the week. Now, sometimes I'll ride, but it'll be like in neighborhoods. There's a lot of subdivisions here, quite a few different greenways and stuff that I ride on. If I want to ride on a Friday night or Saturday night, I will ride in those areas. But if it's on the main roads, generally Sunday through Thursday is the time of the week that I'll ride. Sunday nights are generally the best. Sunday nights usually have the lowest amount of traffic, but sometimes during the week it's not too bad either. So, again, to wrap this up, hope you guys found this helpful. And hopefully you guys, if you decide you want to start riding at night, or if you are riding at night, maybe you've learned something from this video. Again, safety is the utmost importance of bike riding, especially at night. Riding at night on roadways, at least. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and feel free to leave feedback in the comments on what you think. Thank you.